here we go.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, March 18th, 2024, 7 p.m. Bear.
Here.
Briggs.
Here.
Coulter.
Here.
Heidrich.
Here.
Holtmeyer.
Here.
Patke.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated March 4th, 2024? Bear.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Wessels.
Aye. Move we approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who made the first?
Mark Wessels.
No, Mark did, and then Al seconded.
Thank you. Approval and adjustment of agenda.
Need a motion, guys.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Bear, second by Briggs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments and reappointments, urban forestry reappointments.
Before we start the urban forestry, thanks for coming, everybody. I wish there were this many people come to every meeting. So welcome to democracy, Washington style. Dear council members, I herewith submit for your approval the following for reappointment to the Urban Forestry Council. All of their terms will end in March of 2027. Dave Waymeyer, Franz Mayer, William DeWitt, and Gavin Woolley. Can we do all these at once? Yes. Okay. I'll take a motion to approve, please.
Motion.
Second. Okay, motion by Holtmeyer, second by Briggs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Citizens' comments.
Would anyone in the audience like to come up and comment?
Steve.
Nope.
Well, thank you and hello. Glad to be here. My name is Cindy Stratman, and I am the current president of the Turtle Creek Home Association. And some of our residents are here this evening. Would you all please stand that's here from Turtle Creek Association?
So that's why you got a lot of people.
We appreciate that. We all pay lots of city taxes, just like each of you. But we have never had street maintenance or snow removal like all of you. We are here to ask that the city take over those duties. I would like to introduce you to Steve Watson, our secretary, our spokesman, to present our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. I guess I need to talk in this thing. Basically, and you have a document in front of you, something that we put together basically to the City of Washington Council from the homeowners of the Turtle Creek Homeowners Association. We have a petition for city road maintenance and snow removal. And we've talked about this and I've lived in a lot of places, but I feel very strongly about what I'm about to say. Many years ago, the City of Washington approved a site plan giving a builder the right to build on non-standard streets within the confines of the city limits. These streets are Turtle Creek Drive, Anna Lee Lane, and Winona Court. By giving this approval, the initial and subsequent builders were able to build 49 units with no subsequent responsibility regarding road maintenance and snow removal. This has now resulted in a financial burden for the current homeowners not currently experienced by those on other city-maintained streets. We feel that this is something we should not be burdened with, given that we pay taxes, we're within the city limits, and we pay for access water, sewer, and waste management services. Because the HOA maintains these roads, access to these roads is not a problem for waste management, mail delivery, current private snow removal and local delivery services. I think I speak for all the undersigned on this petition when I point out that we feel that the city of Washington is a well-managed metropolitan area. I have lived personally in a lot of cities. This is the best city I have ever lived in, and I'm not saying that just to butter you up. I mean that. The management of the city seems to be very proactive regarding preserving the integrity of the city. Having said that, the HOA also feels that the failure of the city to support this mostly senior citizen community will eventually result in the failure of the HOA to remain effective due to higher HOA fees. Because there is no city support for overall maintenance and snow removal on these streets, the following scenarios will occur sometime in the future if the HOA is forced to cancel several infrastructure support activities due to high HOA fees. One, the overall maintenance would be less than current levels, resulting in a less than desirable housing environment. Two, streets will no longer be maintained. Snow removal will cease to occur, resulting in senior citizens being unable to leave their homes during excessive snow accumulation. This may also result in emergency vehicles being unable to access homes due to these issues. Number three, an overall decline in the maintenance and safety of these households. As mentioned before, we feel that the city is very proactive in its managed approach, and this is an opportunity for the city to support that opinion. We, the undersigned citizens of the Turtle Creek Homeowners Association, do hereby request that the City of Washington City Council discuss and agree to the acceptance of our residential community as part of the city's overall support structure to prevent possible future issues and to support our primarily senior community. Specifically, we are asking that the city provide the following services: snow removal, road repair, and maintenance consistent with the current city-maintained streets. And there it is. I don't know what else to say. I hope that the council will take this under consideration. We have had this conversation several months ago with Darren and John Nilges.
Yes.
And at that time, we talked about it. There was some back and forth. There was no written response. And I guess the thing going on through people's minds is, well, what's changed since then? And the answer is, you're right, nothing's changed, and something needs to change for this. Not just this, we're a blue sign, I've learned this since I've been here, we're a blue street sign community, and there's a few of those here in this city. And sure, you're gonna have to pursue those streets as well, but you can't just ignore them. And that's what we're here for, is to try to get the city to take ownership of an area that's within the city so that it will not go down. We live in a nice part of the city. We have a lake and everything else, but for some reason, we can't get the city to take on the streets and the snow removal. Any questions? Any comments? Let me ask you this. When you do have comments, I'd like to see them in writing. I'd like to see what you have to say. What's the plan? Because personally, I'm not giving this up.
I got a question for you,
ahead.
right here.
Yes.
You guys have an HOA and you're paying to it?
Yes, sir.
Right now?
We're on,
And-
yes.
And what do you,
Paying?
what is your money doing for you now? I mean, what are you paying for?
Well, we have a $15,300 reserve fund that we have to keep, okay? We pay, I'm glad you asked that. January and February, we paid, I think like $5,200 for snow removal. It wasn't exactly the biggest snow removal we ever had.
No.
But it was $5,200, okay? We pay, I think it's $1,920 a month for getting the grass done and all that. And that's not something I'd ask the city to do.
Right.
Okay? But we also have a fund for maintaining the streets. One of the gentlemen here, Darren and I, we have gone out and repaired street holes, okay, that type of thing. About 2 or 3 years ago, chip and seal was done on the streets. I'm not sure what that cost
I think that
us.
was about 15. $17,000.
17,000 to get that done. So it is very expensive. And like I said before, 99% of the people that live there are 65 and older, not 55, 65 and older. And they're on Social Security and that type of thing. So that's where we are. Are we spending money somewhere where we don't have to spend money? No, we don't have any parties or anything like that. We just getting by.
Is everybody pretty much pulling their weight on the HOA money?
On the fees,
Yeah.
we had one person who gave us a problem. We've rectified that problem. But now my policy, or the policy of the board, is if somebody gets behind two quarters in a HOA, we start with the lien process and we start with things that need to be done. Okay, and we just had to do that with one person. So, but for the most part, it has been, everybody's been paying. Another thing I want to point out is, and what may also be going through your mind, because I'm trying to read everybody's mind here, is, well, gee, when you bought the place, didn't you know all this? Maybe you should talk to realtors, because they don't tell you a damn thing, okay? They do not tell you.
We could probably ask, did anybody know this sitting down?
No, see, okay, they,
The paper that we signed originally when we bought our condo,
yeah.
nothing was mentioned on it.
Right, they don't mention the fact, I mean, I guarantee you, most of the people,
Folks,
Ma'am.
excuse me, folks, one at a time. Okay, if you want to speak, please come up to the mic.
most of the, what was I gonna say? You get the message. Basically, we need help.
And, you know, if it was like your grandparents, your mother or father, you would want the same thing for them. All of you, I'm sure, would want that.
We pay, on the average, HOA fees about anywhere from $2,000 to $2,400 every quarter to maintain our HOA. That's what it costs. Because we have to keep that fund in for if the streets go bad, that type of thing.
Sure.
So I asked if I could get a written response from somebody. I'm hoping that that's something that I could get in terms of, as opposed to a verbal or a phone call. I mean, we could get a phone call too, but I would like to know what the city has to say about this. And there you go. It's a pleasure meeting my first-time mayor. I'm never gonna.
How, hey, Steve and Cynthia, how old
Yes, sir.
How old are those units?
I believe they, 1997,
They start, I would say, late 90s.
late 90s,
Late 90s,
97.
yeah. They're nice, they're nice.
Early 90s, some of them were early 90s, some were later 90s, but. 2000, okay, so,
I would check. I remember when the development came to the city, because they had ceased, and the developer was seeking to go ahead. He argued with the city, because the city said, well, how are you going to go ahead and dedicate the streets? Dedicate them to the general public, build them to our city standards. And at that time, he said, well, I don't have to, it's zoned R3. I can treat this just like any other development that where you would build apartments, and you have a driveway to go ahead and get access to them. That's how it was pitched to the city. The city said, fine, they approved it as such, but said at early on, this is private. Those are private streets because they're not built to city street standards. That's how it got approved.
Could I make a comment, Mr. Lamb?
Yes, you, ma'am,
Please
you
Come
can,
up to,
Please come to the, come on up, ma'am.
come on up.
No, you gotta come up.
Hey,
Purchased the condo.
Ma'am, please come to the podium. We'd love to hear from you, but please come to the podium.
When I purchased the condo, the street signs were the green and white one that are all throughout the city.
Yes,
With the little Lions logo. So when that was purchased, I assumed, because the realtor didn't say anything, that that was a city street and would be maintained by the city, snow removal, pothole repair, whatever needed to be done in a timely manner, because I know you've got a lot of streets here in town. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Now, since that, within the last couple of years, they put blue and white signs.
Correct.
Which indicates it is a private street now.
That's
But
correct.
at the time when it was purchased, which was quite a few years ago, my building, I think, was built in 91. Mine's a smaller one. It's not on the pond or lake or whatever you want to
Okay.
call it. So they are older.
Some, I think, like I said, I know another phase that they proposed to build that was like in the late 90s. So.
And we have found some other problems as well with regard to the city and the sewer lines. There's been some problems with that, which again, not aware of until there was a problem. And we are having to pick up some of the charges for that when something occurs, because obviously there's a city line and beyond that is a private line. So if it's going back into the private line, we have to pick up the tab for that, which would be
Correct.
quite costly with plumbers, et cetera. So I just wanted to bring that up to you.
And thank you.
Thank you for all of your service and being here and listening. I greatly appreciate it.
Just for clarification on the streets, I think, and Tim just walked in the room. Tim, the fire department, our emergency responders requested that any streets that we have within the city that are privately maintained, that they go ahead and be in blue and white. And we started that program, do you remember when that was, Tim? 3 years ago? I saw Steve, you put your 3 to 5 years. So they did that just so our emergency responders know that those are private streets. But you're right, back in the 90s, they were all green and white.
Correct, correct. And when it was purchased, it was that way.
They were still private, but they just weren't shown blue and white. Correct.
So we've discussed this in the past.
Yes, we
Not
have.
the first time. This is new to me walking in here tonight, but Darren, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The issue here is that the developer chose to be private
That's correct.
and not build to city specs.
Yes.
And therefore, who bought there bought into the developer that wanted to be private. He didn't want to go with city specs for streets and et cetera. So therefore, I get it, I understand, and I'm here to listen to you, and I completely
No, go ahead.
agree with
I'm good.
you.
I'm good.
But I think the misunderstanding is not that the city is just saying no to you and leaving you hanging here, but the developer back in the 90s came here and said, I don't want to build this to city specs, I want to build it to my own.
But it was allowed.
Correct.
The code allows
Because
that.
the code allows that, and someone else can do that still to this day and know that it's going to be privately.
So you mean somebody within the
Maintained.
city limits can say, I want it to be a private street, and they can do it?
We have had this, yes.
Well, you guys are opened up to a lot of problems.
We have had that with, I mean, I can give you some examples. We've had Meriwether Estates, there's York Lane up there, that's a blue street. Ambridge Lane, Brighton Lane, which is down there off of Rabbit Trail Drive.
Yeah, those two.
Stonecrest has Andrea Drive, I think, that's a private street.
Right.
And a lot of things that the developer gets as an advantage of doing that is obviously they don't have to set aside right-of-way for the purpose of the street.
Right.
And the units can be denser and closer together as long as they meet the code. And so that's what they chose to do at that time, and the city had no other choice but to approve it because it met the code. You also have, just one other one, I mean, there's, I think the,
Calvin Lane.
huh? No, it's over there by, the one that goes up the hill over there that Andy built, Rhine River. There's a private road that goes up that hill. I mean, that's all private. So they can. I'm just telling you, just make sure that you understand that. They can build private streets, then the city will allow it. They know that going into it, that
So-
those are to be maintained private.
So if it's a private street, then the HOA goes out of business, the street goes to hell, the houses go to hell. Do you guys care? I'm sure you do.
Oh, I think we
Are you
care.
gonna
There's no
wait-
question
Are you gonna
about
be,
that.
like I said here, are you gonna be proactive or are you gonna be reactive? Because if you don't do anything, then you will be reactive at some point in time. I guarantee you. I will be dead, and you guys probably won't be on the board, but it will happen. Unless the city takes ownership of these streets, period.
Steve, I just want to make sure that, let's work together. through this.
Remember, the Realtor never told us anything.
I get that, but let's not point fingers and we're not against you.
I know you're not, but you're not helping me.
So why threaten us
I'm not threatening
through
you.
this process? I'd rather work with you and get this done, not threaten us and say that you better do it or else. I don't get that.
Did I say that?
Yes,
Yeah. You better do it or else it's going to.
that's the way I felt too, Steve.
I'm just trying to be cordial
I
here in the
understand.
situation, that's
I
all.
apologize.
So,
And I think our biggest concern
so
was.
if there's
a
any
year
bottom
ago-
line, is there any choice, anything, is there any option Any
Oh, you
option
have,
for these people?
you have an option. I mean, we brought an option to you a year ago that basically said, one of them, if the council wanted to consider it, was that they could talk to, I mean, and this is just one option, but what was thrown out at that time was, if all of the unit owners in there would dedicate the right-of-way at minimum, we thought we could get maybe 30-foot of right-of-way throughout that. It's very, you've got some very, I mean, you pull up those streets, you don't have that much between the front of the house to the other front of the house.
Streets, the layout
But
of the
if you
streets.
if they all signed off to dedicate that then to the city, and then we also talked to them about the funds that they had in their HOA association, that those funds could be used, they'd forfeit those to the city, and that the city could possibly go ahead and pave for the portion of the streets that we knew needed it, and then you could possibly go ahead and take it over. That was one option. The council unanimously said, no. If we do that, where else are we going to, what are you going to do for all the other ones in town? And that is a question to go ahead and ask yourself. Because and maybe, I understand if the realtors didn't explain to them that those were private streets, which I don't know how that could have happened, but I guarantee you in all these other ones, they know very well that it's private streets. And they know that they have to go ahead and take over them. Now, luckily, we haven't had a situation, as Steve has brought up, about where the HOA just goes out and just gives up and says, well, we're not going to do anything.
Well, and according to Steve, he had a meeting with you and John, and he said nobody ever got back with him.
No, I called Cindy and told her that the results of the meeting that the council said, sorry, they don't want to go ahead and have anything to do with it. Correct?
You did email me, and yes. we
Yes.
spoke.
Oh, okay, well,
But I mean,
it's my understanding that,
No, that's
well,
not the
there was
case.
nothing in writing other than an email, I guess, if you want to count that.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
just felt like when we left that meeting a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was personally a positive meeting and that something would occur.
we could throw, yeah, like I said, we threw an option out to the council to go ahead, but like I said,
And
unanimously.
every one of them said no, huh?
Correct.
Well, then throw another,
Can we throw it out again and you can rehash it?
Well, I think there's more, is there an issue with fire, emergency services in the location and the cul-de-sacs at the end, those kind of things? Is there an issue there or not?
Well, they have to reach it regardless. I mean, the emergency responders are gonna go, whether it's private or a public street, they're gonna go ahead and go
They
back.
all can make it down there. The fire truck can, there's 30 feet between driveway to driveway on Analia. We measured everything.
I remember talking about the difficulty of getting in and out, snow plows, fire trucks.
Yeah.
Snowplow can back up down Analia and go forward. There's no problem. The trash truck has no problem. A snowplow wouldn't have any problem.
and I think on the second sheet of what you've got, there's the layout of the streets themselves, okay?
yeah, the narrow, what is it, 26 foot?
That was on Winona Court, yes. The Winona Court is 23 and 20, yeah, they are narrow. The others on Turtle Creek Drive, I mean, unfortunately, the streets didn't label here very well, but on Turtle Creek Drive, which is the one which comes down and then takes a left and goes around the curve, that one is 29, 30, at one point, it's 39 feet across. So, I mean, it's not like,
Steve,
it's not like they're below 20 feet.
Is that a 20 is this a 23 or a 29?
29.
29?
It was
Okay,
29.
okay.
And
This one's 23, what he's showing.
that's at
Yeah,
Winona
that's a-
Court, yes.
Winona Court is 23, yeah.
Is there
But the
parking on
mailman
it?
that delivers our mail, when he,
Yeah, it's-
I-
it's narrow.
he just told me one time, he goes in town, and there's a lot smaller streets, it's not 30, and he doesn't understand it either, why, you know, because we are in the city limits, and we pay the taxes, and we're just not getting those services. But we're helping, our taxes paying for all the other streets in the town of Washington to be maintained. You know, it's hard to understand.
You know, the zoning code, I think, is where the problem starts.
Oh, yeah?
In our zoning code, and put in there at that time, my assumption is, it was a way to get some places in, some lower cost housing, et cetera, for people that we gravely needed, gravely. Now, the thing is, once they accept that route, okay, that's the route they chose to take. We're gonna go private. We know, at the time, the builders knew it. We know that you're not gonna, take care of them, et cetera, et cetera. But we chose to go that route because it's less expensive. We can do it. We can put in more places, which is what people needed at the time. Now, but then, for that to come back and say, okay, we changed our mind, we want you to upgrade it. And there's a lot of these. So I don't know, that's a tough one to do. Either that, I guess to avoid it in the future, we change the zoning code and we never allow that sort of thing again. But the fact is, it was in the code and these people chose to take that path.
I mean, the units in there they're very, very nice. They really are.
Oh, yes, they are.
Well,
I've been
I
down
mean,
there.
they
They're
are.
nice places.
They're all well
Yeah.
made. They really are. And I just want to keep them that way.
So again, there is a possibility, depending on the council's vote, with this easement, Darren, you're saying?
I mean, we could, we can revisit the option and bring it back to the council and say, here was what we had discussed a year ago.
Yeah, for some reason, I
It was February
drawing a blank on.
2023.
Drawing a blank on it.
Yep. So I think everybody here was on the council at that time.
And we'll just work with you guys to get it, if we can get it done. That's it. We're just trying to work with the city to get these things.
Like I said, the only thing I think you do have to be aware of is what are you going to do for every other development that you have within town that wants you to take over their streets? And that's a question that,
In future.
like I said.
And Darren?
Yes.
I'd like to speak to that. If they want to present to you, like we've all got our members here, then they can do that. But we want to be proactive. We want this, we really want this.
Do you guys, at the time last year when we talked about this, there was funds within the HOA that they would use towards pavement of the streets?
Right.
That's what we discussed.
some-
Is that still an option that if the council would consider, is that still on the table?
If that would be the $15,300 we have in the, what do they call it?
Account, the reserve account.
Reserve account.
Is that what you have in there for street maintenance?
I thought we had
That's
more
what-
than that a year ago,
that's
to
what
be
Darren's
honest.
asking.
Street maintenance, I think we have $5,000, but I'd have to take
How much?
about 5,000. I'd have to take my,
Well, the
Super
insurance
duper.
and everything has gone up for all the units. Everything is just keeps creeping up, and people are on fixed incomes.
Well, I know what you're saying, Councilman Wessels and everything. I just really feel for this group, but I don't care that, I wouldn't care if they're in Ward 1, so I'm not doing this because they're in Ward 2. I feel like we're councilmen for the whole town, but I really feel like we should look back into this and look into this and feel everyone out, because I really feel for this group of people. Especially, they were never told, so.
Sorry.
Why it was never,
It's all right, don't worry about it.
why it was never put out, I don't know, but
I didn't see it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
so.
I guess I just want to make one, I'm sorry, that, I didn't mean to be back at Steve before, but
Yeah.
our decision, and again, I guess I'll tell you, my decision here is not that, do I think you deserve to be in the city in that way? My biggest holdup myself, and I can't speak for the other 7 here, is the other developments in town. And as we go forward, if someone comes in and says, we want to put in this development and make it cheaper and make it smaller streets, and then all of a sudden turn around and say, they gave it to the homeowners, and now, city, you take care of it.
Yeah.
And are we being stewards of the whole town taxpayers' money by taking over these streets and this private development? Not saying it's a no, I'm just saying that's where our conversation goes. Darren mentioned a few of those places in town. There's another one off of Second Street that goes up to those apartments up there. If they would come back and say, hey, the streets are in disrepair, take this over.
Right.
And we say, okay, now we got to get our plow trucks up in between the curbs and everything else and all those other places. So it's not against you. It's just a matter that there's more to it than just, we can handle it.
And I totally realize that. And that's, we've talked about that, the fact that, if you do it for one, you gotta do it for all kind of thing. And, I mean, if that's the showstopper, then tell me now.
Well, that's not the stopper, but back to Mr. Wessel's point is the fact that maybe in the code, it spells out wrong that we allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And then someone has that choice that they can go back and say, hey, I want the city to take care of it. And that's not feasible in the long run.
Well, that's a future choice too for developers. It's still in there.
Right.
Well, that's, yeah, and that,
So it could,
to me,
this-
that's what
it
I
could
said.
go
you
on
guys-
for a long
you're in
time.
trouble if it's still in there. I mean, it
Well,
is.
So,
well,
Mr. Wessels, so with the planning and zoning, somebody could come in and do the exact same thing?
Yes.
In
Yes.
2024?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. So the ones that are going in off of East Fifth Street, where they've graded that hillside
You
and
mean
cleared
up
all
by
those trees.
Hillerman's?
Correct. There is going to be private street that's going to be going back there to those units. There's going to be one. So,
But those are apartments.
But
They
they're
are-
zoned the same, but you
but
got
they're zoned the same, they're.
R3 and R3 is just a multifamily.
They still have, in the future, they'll still have the same issues that we're having.
Somebody's going to have to pay, make sure that they
Yeah.
keep those streets.
and that's why I say, if we want to keep that option available for future homes, yeah, this will continue.
Yes.
The builders choose to do that so they can fit more units in that area.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why they choose to do that.
That's exactly why they did it, exactly, yeah.
You guys,
Those two streets going down Rabbit Trail that you were talking about, I have.
Yes.
And if you look at those two streets on going down Rabbit Trail, those are great streets. I mean, they're concrete, paved, the whole bit. And I guess the homeowners there are, at least I gotta give it to the builder that put those streets in. At least he did a good job of putting the streets in so that they don't have, we're saddled with. And I invite anybody, you guys, to come drive down Turtle Creek Drive, and you'll see what we're talking about. Chip and seal, and it's what I really don't get is it's right in a nice part of town. It just doesn't fit, but that's okay.
to give you all some justification, we are, and we have been for a while, short on, what do you call it, entry-level, young family housing?
Yes, okay.
And this is one of the tool, workforce housing. My daughter, 35 years old, 2 young kids, she's a nurse, and she can't afford to live here. I know. Unless you get lucky and hit one of the houses that comes spinning up on occasion. And this is one of the tools that we use to do that. Is it the right tool? Well, we can talk about that. I don't know. But we can't ignore that, the workforce housing issue.
Okay.
Sir, can you come up? I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Please come up to the mic
State your
first.
name.
Yeah.
Because we record the meeting and they need to go ahead and get your
In your
name.
zoning.
Can you get your name and address?
My name's Russell Fink. I live at number 1 Turtle Creek Drive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cecil.
In your zoning, can you put something in there that it's different from a condo homeowner and a person who is renting? Because we all own there, we do not rent.
So,
Okay?
well, I think.
Sally, you want to answer?
But yeah, as far as I know, we are not allowed to regulate what can be rental and what can be
No.
homeowner. I mean, the Fair Housing Act won't allow us to do that.
Yeah, I'll try to give this a try. Okay, Darrell Schultz, 3 Turtle Creek Drive. Okay. I got a couple of questions. One, is there a way, after the fact that we've been talking about, that streets that were made under a contract years ago, et cetera, is there a way to do a buy-in to a city? What would it cost us, anybody else, all these other places, if they decided that they wanted to do what we're doing? Would there possibly be a way for that organization to get a buy-in to the city to be like the rest of the city?
I think Darren kind of answered that question, was how much money is in the HOA that we.
You could either do that, I mean, like, for example,
Possibly.
we had Meadow Lake subdivision came into the city. A little bit of a different scenario, but I mean, they came in, but they had an HOA to take care of all their streets, et cetera, et cetera. They needed sewer. in their subdivision. Basically, each one of those lot owners paid a check to the city for the extension of that sewer line, water line, and then we took over the streets as they were in that situation. But they needed sewer, and they all paid a check. To answer your question, yes, there's a way. I mean, we could set it up. I think we haven't done a neighborhood improvement district before, but I think we've talked about that, Mark. I don't know as like a tool to where it's a special taxing district where it only taxes those that are getting the improvements. And you could do it over time to where those improvements could get paid off over time. So that's
sounds like
kind
a
of the
vehicle.
buy-in of what you're talking about, if I
Yeah,
understand.
that would be a vehicle, so to speak.
Correct.
To get from where we are to where we want to go.
Or they could just do a special assessment.
Okay,
And then just go ahead and do that, say, here's how much it's gonna cost to resurface the streets, et cetera. I guess one thing that's key, though, is to make sure everybody would have to turn in, like we talked about a year ago as an option, is if you did, they would have to go ahead and dedicate the right-of-way entirely then to the city. So everybody that's got access, because right now you all own probably, I don't have the plat in front of me, my guess would be you probably own to the center of the street, or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And so, or you all own it jointly, whatever the case may be. You'd have to turn that over to the city, and the city would have to accept that right away in order to go ahead and do that, because we can't spend money on a private
right.
street.
Right. So let me see if I'll repeat this back to you, make sure I understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. I used the word buy-in.
Right.
You used the words special tax
Special assessment.
zone of some sort, which would be a total assessment over a period of time, and we would be considered, as far as the streets are concerned anyway, part of the city.
That
that
could
kind of-
possibly happen, yes.
It could, I'm just
Yes.
asking
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yep.
Okay, all right, okay, so there's a vehicle. All right. Can I bring up about the snow? Snow? No, okay. All right, that's what I was wondering about. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What would it take to work up such a?
I'd have to talk with Mark. I can't remember the last time
We've never done one.
You call it neighborhood improvement?
district,
Neighborhood improvement district,
yes.
where you tax only those properties that are benefited by the improvements. So they would get an additional tax bill every year.
And we would know what that amount is before or in the process?
Well, you wouldn't know it until the improvements were.
So we got an estimate of how much the improvements would cost.
Right,
So-
I'm putting myself in their shoes and we
Yeah,
agree to
if
that.
you just
that's what we're looking
resurface
for.
the street, we'd just be looking at the asphalt. If they still wanted to keep, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I don't want to oversimplify it. But,
You have to widen them also?
I'm looking at,
I don't know that in some instances you're going to be able to do it.
I don't know how you can.
Because you can't, and here's the thing, also you would have to put restrictions on parking so that you can't, I mean, otherwise you're going to be blocking the street. And so, and we can do that with the city street. Well, we could do it with a private one too. We have turned some of these private streets into fire lanes, if you will, and just say that's basically you can't park on it even though it's private.
So like one of these streets that's 26 feet wide, goes down to 23, is there parking on one side or no?
as a matter of fact, I didn't point that out on the map, but there's just houses on one side. The other side is a slope, a slight slope that could be widened to go out further that way, but there's no homes that have right-of-way onto the street. So that one where that's 23 foot wide, all the homes are on on one side of the street.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, because if it was both sides, that would be pretty crowded.
And I'm just gonna point out, on Winona, which is public, people park on both sides.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when I drive on it, when you meet another car, it
Yeah.
can be dangerous, so
Don't
I
meet
don't
another
really
car.
know. Excuse me?
I don't think you can meet another car in some spots.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm saying, so when the snow
Traffic
plow's
calming.
trying to go down that, he's got a car on each side, and if he meets somebody,
Right, my concern is if cars park on one side and a plow truck has to back down the street, we're gonna have problems. Guys are doing it
Yeah.
at night, they're doing it in snow, and they back into someone's car, then it's an issue too, if there's no street park. That's another.
How much street park, when I drove down through there, I didn't really see cars on the street.
there's no street.
They're all in the garage.
No street parking.
None of them.
Yeah.
Everybody parks in their garage or their driveway. Nobody's.
Yeah, I didn't even see one when I was driving.
And that one part of the layout where it says like 39 feet or really large on Turtle Creek, that's got a big area way over to the side there, where it's paved type of thing. As a matter of fact, we had, the homeowners association put a sign up there that said no long-term parking, because we didn't want people to just park their cars there and leave them. We're trying, folks. We really are.
Well, we appreciate you listening to us, and
Yes, we do.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Guys, have a
Thanks,
great
Steve.
Thank you all for attending too, by the way.
Any other citizens' comments tonight? Okay, go ahead, Sherry.
Ordinances and resolutions.
Board of Department heads.
Sorry, my fault. Report of department heads, cigar bar exemption ordinance.
Yes, good evening, council. So I have distributed in front of all you tonight before the meeting a draft ordinance that would create the definition of a cigar bar and actually allow the exemption for a cigar bar to be located in certain zone districts. So just a little bit of background on this. We were first approached by the owner of Bootleggers, and Bill is here tonight to answer any questions if you have it. It's just about the process of what this would look like. I know in the past, it was pretty clear that it would have to be a completely new ordinance. It couldn't be a variance to go to the Board of Adjustment or anything of that sort. But I think what changes, we saw an example of a neighboring community or a close-by community, Chesterfield, passed a exemption for cigar bars. And essentially what it requires to keep the loophole from all bars or clubs being able to do this is that 25% or more of its quarterly gross revenue has to come from the sale of cigars and or rental of humidor space, so that they have to show quarterly that it is truly a cigar bar. And that keeps it from any bar saying, hey, we sell cigars, we're also a cigar bar, and keeps it very specified. In this, it would also require a humidor and air ventilation system in there on the premises, and does not allow minors to enter the smoking area. And so it's pretty straightforward in here, but we wanted to bring this to you all to discuss tonight, and then if there's any changes or a motion to move forward, we can bring it to you at your next meeting. And again, we actually did send this to Bill as well to look at, to make, as the one business that was requesting it, to see if it would fit, and they had no concerns either, so.
Does this confine it to indoor smoking only, or is it outdoor also?
Well, right now, you can already do outdoor as long as you're 10 feet away from the building.
Okay.
So this would just allow it to be indoor.
Go ahead.
Evening, I'm Bill Sieving. I own Bootlegger Cigars with my wife. The way I'd set it up is I'd have a separate room inside my business that would be walled off, that would have a ventilation in it. So the ventilation the smoke wouldn't interfere with other customers. So the smoke users are fantastic now. They clear the room within 2 minutes. So they circulate the air. You get, I'm not sure the numbers, but every 2 minutes it gets fresh air rotated into the room. So
If you guys haven't been in there, it's pretty nice.
When, Darren, do you have a copy or anything when we passed the smoking ordinance? Was that 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was approximately 10 years ago. We can get a copy. I don't have a copy on me.
2015.
Yeah.
Was it 15?
I thought it was
9
longer
years
than
ago.
that.
I thought it was longer.
January of
No, it's
2014,
about 10 years ago.
2013.
Huh?
2013, because,
See, there it is. It is 10 years.
there you go.
Well, that ordinance is, I recall, it was to protect people from secondhand smoke.
Yes.
Basically. And so I'm assuming two things, I guess. You wouldn't be in a humidor if you're a non-smoker, for one
Yes.
thing. And so I'm assuming that the ventilation system in there basically eliminates that danger.
Yes, sir.
Good.
So again, Sal, my question is then, what happens to the next one? If someone else comes in for a cigar bar, they'll have to go through this process?
They would have to qualify as this, and whether we can require them to turn in the receipts quarterly. and prove that they are 25% or above.
Yep. Last year, my sales, I sold 7,100 cigars last year, and average cigar price was $13.55, and that was 53.4% of my sales. This year, I'm at 1,021 cigars at 53.3%. So,
Just back to the same thing, is this, what happens to the next person that someone comes in and says, you know, hey, I have this, so.
If,
we have
if
a-
somebody was trying, I guess what we would probably do under this scenario, and Mark, help me if I'm wrong, but if you pass the ordinance and then we were concerned, or there was a concern expressed that somebody was using this as a loophole to allow just regular smoking in their establishment, the city could then go in and ask for these quarterly reports.
Gotcha.
Correct.
and I was gonna post I'm posting outside on the patio right now. I have signs ordered right now, cigar and pipe smoking only. Because cigarette smoking and vaping, it shouldn't be involved in, it shouldn't be in a cigar bar. So, people are there to enjoy cigars and pipes, not smell cigarettes. It's a different smell, so.
And I
Excuse
did-
me, sir, did you, when you opened up your establishment, did you know about the non-smoking ban?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you
knew it
knew
was
that
too-
going into it, so.
Yes, yes.
You know, I remember we had a business that was trying to do this right when we did the smoking ban, and the council voted it down. Well, and then it came back and it got
they were
grandfathered.
allowed.
Got grandfathered
They were
in
allowed.
eventually, but at first it got shut down. It was getting shut down. And he could not sell alcohol. If I remember at that time, he could not sell any alcohol or any food. He could just sell light snacks and smoke. So what makes that any different than what we're looking at now then?
The only thing I could tell you, Mark, is that that gentleman at the time was trying to keep a business as a hookah bar, not necessarily a cigar bar.
Right. If you go into a cigar bar, you're going into a cigar bar exclusively to smoke a cigar. It's not like you're getting blindsided, you know, while you're sitting there having dinner. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what you're getting into when you go in there. And I think it should be an exception that you should be able to have that option.
Especially if that air ventilation system is in some way licensed and sanctioned to do, as you're saying.
Yes.
This will clear the air every 2 months, you know, you have some sort of a,
But, you know, once again,
Credible
you know when you go
ventilation.
in there, you're gonna smell like a cigar when you come out, but that's what you signed up for, so.
Well, and in that defense, Mike, people used to say, well, when I go into a bar, I know I'm going into a cigarette, you know, back in the day.
Well, I mean, this,
You know,
this
so-
got some nice little, you know, with the parameters that you have to follow is pretty straightforward.
I mean, when Sal brought this to me, I was the one that suggested the ventilation system.
did.
Yeah.
It didn't have the ventilation
and I
system
think if you
in it.
didn't have that, I think we would have to oppose it.
And I have nothing against you. I have nothing against cigars. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just thinking of our constituents.
Yes.
The outpouring of emails and phone calls we got at that time that were totally against and
Yes.
wanted this smoking ban. That's all
I mean, I've had people light up during the festivals, and I've told them inside my place, I was like, you can't smoke in here, you have to leave. There's no smoking allowed inside, you have to go 10 feet away from my main entrance. They're like, well, it's a cigar lounge. I said, no, we're a cigar shop right now. So,
I did talk to the city administrator of Chesterfield, and like Darren stated, they have only ever had to use that 25% as an enforcement for another establishment. So I think the two that they have are well above the 25%. Because I asked him, does it go to their finance department or does it go straight to his office, just what their process was, and he said, honestly, we only use it when we're having to enforce the zoning code.
Do you want any?
What do you need from us?
If you wish to go ahead and have us go ahead and have this available at the next council meeting, we would need a motion to go ahead and forward it to council for the next meeting.
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Wessels, second by Coulter. Any further discussion or questions, you guys? I've got one. Bill, so the smoking inside takes place in that little glass area?
no, that's
No,
the
that's the
humidor.
humidor.
I was gonna have a wall put up down the center and cut over, and it'll just be that area that maybe 15, 20 people could sit in at a time.
Okay,
So, just keep it separate from everything else. The smoke eater that I want to purchase is double the size, so it'd pull more smoke out and clean more air.
Right.
More quickly. So, I'm all for the Clean Air Act, and I want to keep with it. That's why I suggested the ventilation system. So,
Okay.
okay, any questions?
More questions, you guys, or comments? Nope. Let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we need the individual?
No,
I don't think so.
no.
Not until the ordinance.
Do that when you bring the
Cool.
ordinance back for pass.
Thank you.
Motion passes, Sherry.
Thank you. guys.
Thank you.
Oppose?
Have a great day.
Nay.
Sorry.
You never gave an oppose. And again,
Oh, no, you're
it's
fine,
nothing
sir.
personal with you. I just remember the outpouring of people that wanted it
Yes,
at that
sir.
time, and I have to stick with what I voted for in 2013.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark, I thought I heard everybody.
Any other department heads? Ordinances and resolutions, an ordinance accepting the proposal for professional design services with Cochran Engineering for the main stage roof and amend the 2023-2024 budget.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
As a follow-up to the agenda at your last meeting, we had discussed the main stage roof structure. The next step, I think that the consensus from the council at that time was to move forward so that we could get some bids in and actually find out if we had a shortfall, how much it is, et cetera, and possibly work with the chamber on moving forward with it. In order to do so, we did have a contract with Cochran at the time, back in '21, when we went out to bid. The design is complete. They're not charging you for that anymore. That's on a shelf, ready to be pulled off. But the second phase and the other phase is to go ahead and go back out for bids, which we have to do. And then the second portion of that is for construction inspection. You are not tied into that if they don't perform that construction inspection. So just by approving this, you're only doing basically whatever, as much as you want, just like we did last time. We just cut the contract. Huh? This is approval. This is what you need to do to go ahead and start the bidding process. I've talked with Joe McGowan, who was the design architect on the thing. We think we can go ahead and get this out for bids in April and hopefully have back the results of that the first part of May.
Okay. Further questions or discussions? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance accepting the proposal for professional design services with Cochran Engineering for the main stage roof and amend the 2023-2024 budget. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7A passes. B, please.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Public Safety Upfitters LLC for installation of warning devices and radios and amend the 2023-2024 budget.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
Good evening, council. First, I'd like to apologize for not being in uniform. I had a little family emergency this evening prior to. In your packet, you have a letter and bids from two different vendors, a letter from me and two different vendors. We're recommending going with Public Service Upfitters out of Fenton, Missouri for the completion of a one-ton truck. The truck is presently at Napa Hyde in St. Peters, having the bed painted to match the body, be put in service as a replacement truck for headquarters, primarily as a traffic unit, but also as a first response unit and a traffic, basically sacrificial lamb. We'd put it out there to be hit before it hits one of the bigger, more expensive trucks. In the budgeting process, everything, as you know, went up. We budgeted for outfitting three vehicles, and we were approximately 50% off. So when I was budgeting for this about a year ago, we figured we could do each of the vehicles for about $10,000, and I was off. So right now, there's $1,100 left in the budget item. That's what we're asking for the budget amendment. Public Service Upfitters was a low bid at $15,788. That includes the council, all the lighting on the vehicle, as well as we added an inverter in it. We found the inverter recently to be very effective on various calls, particularly using drones and such, having a power source readily in the field. So I'm asking your approval for that in the budget amendment to pull it out of the reserve.
Questions, comments?
So Chief, in the last year, it jumped 50%.
Everything's gone up. It's been insane, everything that we try to do. I'm $1.50 short all the time, it seems like. Our turnout gears actually went up 50% in the last year as well. We're bidding that out right now.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? Let's vote, Sherry.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Public Safety Upfitters LLC for installation of warning devices and radios and amend the 2023-2024 budget. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7B reluctantly passes.
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Radiocom Co. for L3 Harris mobile radios and amend the 2023-2024 budget.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
This is the radio for the vehicle. We are amending the budget to add a repeater to this vehicle and add a portable radio for it as well. So the bid includes a repeater. We use the repeater, actually us, police, EMS, we have a shared frequency that we can use. And if we get on fringes or areas of coverage that's not as good, or larger buildings that we cannot necessarily get in or out of, the repeater is used in those situations. So we're adding the repeater to this vehicle that was not originally planned as part of the installation. Radiocom has been the vendor. We used Command One initially, but we've gone with Radiocom since. Their quality of installation and quality of parts and delivery has been much better.
Comments, questions? Okay, Sherry.
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Radiocom Co. for L3 Harris mobile radios and amend the 2023-2024 budget. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7C passes. D, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a contract with Modern Pool Management Corporation doing business as Midwest Pool Management for operations and maintenance services of the Agnes Nolting Aquatic Complex.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
Evening, Council. In front of you, you have a recommendation to go out for bid, or not to go out for bid, recommendation for pool management at the pool for this upcoming summer and then possibly for 2 future years under the same terms. We went out to bid. I sent out RFPs. We received 3, one from a local company, our former past contractor, and then 2 companies, ironically from the same town in Georgia, out-of-town companies for pool management and maintenance and staffing. And so you can see the bids came in at $228,960, $251,200, and then $255,000. As a bid alternate, we bid out, which has been very popular over the last few years, extended pool season hours, so Saturdays and Sundays after the pool closes during the week, which is Saturdays and Sundays in August, and then Labor Day weekend. And that's been very popular, so I would recommend going with that also. In the fee, the $228,960 by Midwest Pool Management includes management, maintenance, and staffing. And generally, every year on the staffing portion, we have money left over. I believe last year we had approximately $10,000 left on the PO, just due to rainouts and different things like that.
Wayne, on this 228 with Midwest Pool, and that's the group we had last year?
Correct.
That's correct.
What did it total to last year?
We took it was about a $14,000 increase this year, just due to contract staffing and costs and things like that.
The 214.
Yeah.
And you had,
So about-
like Wayne said, you had that 14,000 that came off of.
And we had about 10,000 left
thought it
at
was
the end on the PO
All right.
that we didn't use.
This is the same group you've had year after year.
Right. checking these 50% inflation rates.
Yeah, I know.
This one's a little bit more acceptable.
Most of that bid is for salary, I'm assuming.
Yeah, a good portion, yeah, most of it is, yeah.
Okay.
It's been discussed with Park Board and they're in favor, and Midwest Pool Management has done a good job for the last 3 or 6 years now. Has it been?
Oh, it's been longer.
Been longer than that?
It's been a long time
Probably
since the city
15
has,
years at least.
has put that together. Yeah, it's been quite a while, Jeff.
They've done a good job. They've done, as far as staffing goes,
Yeah.
so.
And last year was by far, I mean, they had extra applications last year, which they said hadn't happened in probably about 10 years, so. They're getting the word out. And so far this year, I've been told they're off, you know, if they got the contract, they were off to a good start with staffing, so.
Great. More further questions, comments? Let's vote, Sherry, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a contract with Modern Pool Management Corporation, doing business as Midwest Pool Management, for operations and maintenance services of the Agnes Nolting Aquatic Complex. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Hydrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7D passes. E, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and E. Meyer Contracting, Inc. for the 2024 parking lots asphalt paving project.
Introduced by Patke.
Good evening, council. This is for our parking lot package, which includes the lower riverfront parking lot, the old sand plant lot on the riverfront, and then 2 small fire station lots, one at 5th and Stafford and one at 14th Street. They should be included in your package so you can see. The bids came in really good. We got lots of bids, 11 bids, well under the budget and the estimated amount. E. Meyer got the contract, so.
Have we done any work with us before, you
We have not done any work with E. Meyer. We reached out to some places and came back with good reviews of them, so.
Had no problems?
What were the other 2 locations you were talking about?
The 2 fire station lots, or
Oh, is that-
the big
is that what
lots?
it was?
There's 2 fire station lots, one at 5th and Stafford, one at 14th, but then the main paving is the lower riverfront parking lot where the boat trailers are, and then the old sand plant lot, we're gonna pave that, where it was gravel before.
Yeah, in your packet, you've got some of those areas that are to be paved.
And then we did have city staff, in the old sand plant lot there, we have 5 islands, put in there, and we put the conduit to put lights in the future. But with the savings that we're seeing here, we're potentially looking at going ahead and putting the streetlights in this year. So we're getting numbers together and figuring that out.
Well, this is, I mean, we've,
Don't get
yeah.
to save it, Mark.
You better spend those savings, the other departments are gonna come after you for that.
Well, so the project came under bid. You had, I believe, was it where's Wayne at? 250, I think is what we
250
had.
was the capital improvement.
Yeah, for the capital improvement sales tax. And so since you've got that savings, we'd like to go ahead and bring those lights back to you. So that way it's a complete package. We were going to go ahead, we didn't expect the bids to come in the way they did, and we were going to have to go ahead and rebudget that for next year, possibly, to go ahead and get done. But we'd like to go ahead and do it now. So.
Is the city putting in the islands, concrete work?
The concrete work is being done by Lampe as part of the Sturger project that was approved last time. They've already started down there, so.
Cool.
So the island
Wayne
is
Staff-
concrete curb, right?
Yes.
Yeah, concrete curb. yeah,
Concrete
right.
curb, yep.
Yeah, Wayne staff did the subgrade, right?
All
In the rock.
grading and rock.
Mhm.
Department did the conduit. And, yeah, we're hoping the islands, there's 5 of them that will be toured, donuts and things like that.
Sure.
down there. We'll see.
Have faith, Wayne. Have faith.
Those islands I was down looking at them, are they gonna be concrete all the way across?
Concrete.
All the way across?
You mean filled in?
Not just a curb?
Oh, just a curve.
It's just curb for
Yeah,
now.
I saw them.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is, what I saw, they were building up like a curb. What's gonna be in the middle?
We talked about potentially like planting stuff, but we may just concrete them in with the flooding and stuff, so.
For you guys with plants.
Yeah. We're trying to keep everything, we're trying to get as much as we can for, our price, so it may be a future thing. We'll
Like
try it
gravel.
out, maybe it gets mulch for a while. We don't want to plan anything like super nice because of possible flooding.
I understand.
Further discussion, you guys, or questions? Okay, go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and E. Meyer Contracting, Inc. for the 2024 Parking Lots Asphalt Paving Project. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
By your vote, ordinance 7E passes. F, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Little Elm LLC.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
This one and the next one in your packet are for the same sanitary sewer easement. So this sewer was put in back in 2020 as part of the project when Meadow Lake was annexed in. For some reason, the easements were never granted at that time. This was discovered when Washington Terrace is trying to get their development going out there, and they were trying to connect into that sewer, and they needed their own easements, and we found that we didn't have that easement through there, so went ahead and got those drafted so we could have it.
Good job, Charles. That's something Neil just would have never done, so that's good.
Are both these at the same? in
F and G
Meadow
are,
Lake?
F and G
Yeah,
are
they're-
both easements.
They're just
Meadow
different
Lake?
companies through different properties.
Property.
Little Elm or Big Elm.
Right.
So we got to vote on it.
Yeah.
Blueprints don't tell you where it's at.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on F, you guys? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Little Elm LLC. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7F passes. G, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Big Elm LLC.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
It's the same thing, but for Big Elm instead of Little Elm now, second property.
Okay. Questions, comments? Let's vote.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Big Elm LLC. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7G passes. H, please.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
So this was brought in front of Traffic Committee. A business owner down there on Oak Street between Main and Second, they were concerned about not having enough parking, and currently Oak between Fifth and Front is no parking on the east side for the whole 5 blocks there. But between Second and Main, there would be more parking available if it were parking on the east side instead of the west side. Currently, there's 4 spots for parking on the west side. There would be 10 spots if you switch it to the east side. So you gain 6 parking spots in the downtown area where parking's kind of at a premium. So this was brought in front of Traffic Committee, and we decided, we agreed. There was some hesitancy about switching it through that stretch, through the different blocks, but ultimately we thought parking was needed more than that, and it wouldn't be a huge risk for accidents or anything like that. So this is just switching the parking from that stretch between Second and Main on Oak Street from the west side to the east side.
And the businesses down there fine on both sides of the street, or?
You're just gaining the spots across from the
Yeah,
drive-through. at the
they'd
back.
be able to park on the other side of the street then.
That's how it got brought to the Traffic Committee's
Yeah, one of the business owners on the
shop.
east side
business owner down there. that
Right.
wanted-
is looking for
How
additional
about the west
parking.
side? That doesn't bother the bank at all?
Yeah, we didn't talk to the bank directly, but they have their own parking lots as
Yeah.
well and different
Alright.
parking spots, so.
No further questions or comments? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
By your vote, ordinance 7H passes. Aye, please.
An ordinance amending Schedule 13, loading and unloading zones of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
So a few months ago, we looked at traffic committee about removing a loading and unloading zone at Elm and Second Street. And when we were looking through that, we went through the code, and there's not that many loading and unloading zones, and we found that most of them weren't actually being utilized anymore. So Officer Grissom went through, talked to all the property owners in the areas, and found a whole bunch of them that aren't being utilized, and honestly, the business owners would like them to go away and just be regular parking. So we're just cleaning up the code, getting rid of some that aren't currently being utilized, so.
So each one of these basically result in an additional parking space or more.
Yep, exactly.
Well, some of them actually are being used for parking right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the signs are long gone, so.
Okay.
Or already, yeah.
Right.
Bricktown Flats, that corner was all loading, unloading for MFA back in the day, long gone now, you know, those are the types of things.
Okay.
A lot of it's just cleaning stuff up.
I would encourage if we can, and I don't know how much we do this anymore, but it'd be nice to put some spots, defined spots to regulate that a little better, driving through there.
I think we're trying to
you
do
had
that more in the
request from
downtown
brewery
area.
down there that, you know, to lay that out a little nicer so that everybody knows this is a spot versus wasting one or two spots because they park wherever they want to. So,
Right.
Painting, you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
the little
Striping
white Ls.
stalls.
Other questions or comments, you guys? Okay, let's vote.
An ordinance amending Schedule 13, loading and unloading zones of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7I passes. Next.
Mayor's report.
Our next council meeting, everybody, is a workshop on the 1st of April. I'm not fooling, at 5:30.
Yeah, the reason for the earlier timing is we were going to have a presentation from EPA on the old Swerland site over there at Sixth Street. They'd like to go ahead and give you an update. And so we talked with them if we would have had them. I didn't know if we'd have enough time if we did it at 6 in order to get there by the time of 7 o'clock. So in case there's residents here that got questions, et cetera, they'll have ample time to go ahead and do that. So we bumped it up by a half hour. We'll see how scary it is. We're scared.
Last week, Councilman Heidrich and I accompanied a young officer, Cal Braz, down to the Jeffco Police Academy, where we met with 25 young officers, and it was a recruiting visit because it's tougher and tougher to find good police officers as well as good employees. We need to go out recruiting, and looks like we've already have some fruit of our labor the other day, which is great, and those visits will continue, everybody. It was really interesting. Hopefully we got one of the good ones. They had some really, if you're in the military, people call it squared away when they have their act together. There were some really squared away people there. So I would also like to invite everyone to my council, or pardon me, to the Coffee with the Mayor tomorrow, and that includes everybody in the audience too. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll talk about leadership, and there will be a representative here from East Central College. They'll talk about the election, but they'll also talk about the leadership that's going on over at the college. So, thank you.
City Administrator's report.
I just have one item for executive session.
I'd like to piggyback off of the mayor. That was a very neat event to go to, and so thank you very much. And I know everybody's already stepped up and said they would go, but I would highly advise it to make the time to go. And they were really interested in hearing about Washington, so it was really nice. Second, I just want to again apologize to all the folks that are here. And I'm glad you guys all are here and all came, and I believe everybody listened to you. I don't want anybody to think that it was a wasteful time coming here. So and I feel for you if you were not told about all this, and it's a shame. It's really a shame. Some people try to just push things underneath the rug sometimes, so I apologize for all that, but I did not do it, but I'm sorry to hear about it. Third, I read something in the paper where the board is looking more into Lime scooters again. And I had not heard anything about this until I saw it in the newspaper. Can anybody enlighten me on anything more than what was?
I had a question about if it was going to be sent back out for requests for proposals. And so we went to the downtown board to see if they had any opposition, and then the traffic committee. And honestly, it slipped my mind to put that discussion on here tonight. So we will put it on for your next meeting. So it's just, even if we want to go out for proposals. So I just had a question asking if someone could submit a proposal, and I didn't think I had the authority to say, no, we're not getting them back. So I just wanted that discussion. And when we set this agenda, I just slipped my mind, so I apologize. So.
Yeah, and I know we're not voting on anything, or we're not talking about it, but I'm definitely still against it, so. Always have been. Thank you.
I would like just to mention again, it happens every year, and all of the council, I know you receive these, the updates from Missouri Municipal League. And they follow the legislation going on at the state every year, and about this time, they're getting closer and closer. And it's still, it's the same issue I complained about last year. It seems every year, our state legislators want to tell municipalities what they should tax, what they shouldn't tax, how they should go about it, what kind of percent. And I really wish they would leave that to the local people to make those decisions about their own areas. But they come up every year. MML opposes them every year. But there's a handful of them on there again, as they're on their spring break right now, but when they come back, there's a handful of issues that once again they'll be looking at. So if you're so inclined, you might want to let our folks know that we can take care of ourselves. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, go ahead.
City Attorney's Report, public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.